meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe, starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. When you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope you all are doing well. We're doing the Law of One series, and I've got 85 and 86 are the two sessions that we got queued up. Carla's health is definitely getting worse and worse. She's getting a lot of pain now as well, so a lot is happening in those regards, and it's starting to actually cause some transmission problems. I kind of tried to deal with that through the reading of this. A little tricky, so apologies for it being as the way it is, but they get, again, with the pain, fifth density friend, that little individual that is, or being, or whatever, is messing with them. And these things will happen as your light grows brighter. Trust me, as your light grows brighter, you will start to have some interesting experiences. It's just the way it is. Reality is a catalyst. The veil, there's a lot with the veil in these two sessions. Veil, super cool. The second session, 86, we talk about dreaming. Fantastic stuff. In fact, that's already super helped me. I kind of remembered it before, but sort of an experience I might share after that one is relevant, and maybe some of you guys might have some similar going on in your lives. I don't know, or maybe I'm just crazy. That's entirely possible. So yeah, we got the difference between the paths too when it comes to the veil is one of the things they talk about in 85. So we are going to fire that off. If anybody's got questions, please put questions in there. I do not believe I've got my wonderful assistant to help me out. I believe she's on vacation, which is very duly needed. So all that said, I will do my best to work through the questions in between. But I love you guys, and I appreciate you joining us on this wonderful adventure, how we learn about the Law of One and how we learn how things aren't quite what we've always understood them to be. And I think that's what Law of One is really trying to help us get to the point of. All that said, here is session 85 on the Law of One. On session 85, recorded April 26th, 1982. Ra, I am Ra. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. We ask your permission to preface this answer by the inclusion of the greeting which we use. Questioner, that's agreeable. Ra, I am Ra. We greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We were having some difficulty with the channel of energy influx due to a pain flare, as you call this distortion of the physical body complex of this instrument. Therefore, it was necessary to speak as briefly as possible until we had safely transferred the mind-body-spirit complex of this instrument. We beg your kind indulgence for our discourtesy. It was appropriate. The condition of this instrument is as follows. The necessity for extreme vigilance is less due to the somewhat lessened physical complex energy deficit. The potential for distortion remains, and continued watchfulness over the ingestion of helpful foodstuffs continues to be recommended. Although the instrument is experiencing more than the, shall we say, normal for this mind-body-spirit complex distortion towards pain at this space-time nexus, the basic condition is less distorted. The vital energies are as previously stated. We commend the vigilance and care of this group. Questioner: what is the current situation with respect to our fifth density service to self polarized companion, shall I say? Ra: I am Ra. Your companion has never been more closely associated with you than at the present nexus. You may see a kind of crisis occurring upon the so-called magical level at this particular space-time nexus. Questioner: what is the nature of this crisis? Ra: I am Ra. The nature of this crisis is the determination of the relative polarity of your companion and yourselves. You are in the position of being in the third density illusion, and consequently having the conscious collective magical ability of the neophyte, whereas your companion is most adept. However, the faculties of will and faith, and the calling to the light, have been used by this group to the exclusion of any significant depolarization from the service to others path. If your companion can possibly depolarize this group, it must do so, and that quickly. For in this unsuccessful attempt at exploring the wisdom of separation, it is encountering some depolarization. This shall continue. Therefore, the efforts of your companion are pronounced at this space-time and time-space nexus. Questioner: I am totally aware of the lack of necessity, or even rational need, for naming of entities or things. I was wondering if this particular entity had a name, just so that we could increase our efficiency of communicating with respect to him. Does he have a name? Ra: I am Ra. Yes. Questioner: would it be magically bad for us to know that name, or would it make no difference? Ra: I am Ra. It would make a difference. Questioner: what would the difference be? Ra: I am Ra. If one wishes to have power over an entity, it is an aid to know that entity's name. If one wishes no power over an entity, but wishes to collect that entity into the very heart of one's own being, it is well to forget the naming. Both processes are magically viable. Each is polarized in a specific way. It is your choice. Questioner: I am assuming that it would be a problem for the instrument if she were to meditate without the hand pressure from the other self at this time because of the continued greeting. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct if the instrument wishes to remain free from this potential separation of mind-body-spirit complex from the third density it now experiences. Questioner: I am assuming that, if for no other reason, since our fifth density companion has been monitoring our communications with Ra, it has been made aware of the veiling process of which we have been speaking, and it seems to me that, from an intellectual point of view, that conscious knowledge and acceptance of the fact that this veiling process was used for the purpose for which it was used, that it would be difficult to maintain high negative polarization once it was intellectually consciously accepted that this veiling process did in fact occur the way that you have described. Could you clear up my thinking on that point? We are unsure as to our success in realigning your modes of mentation. We may, however, comment. The polarization process, as it centers fourth density, is one which occurs with full knowledge of the veiling process which has taken place in third density. This veiling process is that which is a portion of the third density experience. The knowledge and memory of the outcome of this and all portions of the third density experience informs the higher density polarized entity. It, however, does not influence the choice which has been made and which is the basis for further work past third density in polarization. Those which have chosen the service to others path have simply used the veiling process in order to potentiate that which is not. This is an entirely acceptable method of self-knowledge of and by the Creator. So there's a correction, and what they meant to say was those which have chosen the service to self path have simply used the veiling process in order to potentiate that which is not. This is an entirely acceptable method of self-knowledge of and by the Creator. Questioner: you just stated that those who are of the service to others path use the veiling process to potentiate that which is not. I believe I am correct in repeating what you said. Is that correct? This should be service to self. Don and Ra corrected the error later in the session. Ra. I am Ra. Yes. Questioner. Then the service to others path have potentiated that which is not. Could you expand that a little bit so I can understand it better? Ra. I am Ra. If you see the energy center in their various colors completing the spectrum, you may see that the service to others' choice is one which denies the very center of that spectrum, that being universal love. I am Ra. If you see the energy centers in their various colors completing the spectrum, you may see that the service to self-choice is one which denies the very center of the spectrum, that being universal love. Therefore, all that is built upon the penetration of light of harvestable quality by such entities is based upon an omission. This omission shall manifest in fourth density as the love of self, that is, the fullest expression of the orange and yellow energy centers, which then are used to potentiate communication and adepthood. When fifth density refinement has been achieved, that which is not is carried further, the wisdom density being explored by entities which have no compassion, no universal love. They experience that which they wish by free choice, being of the earnest opinion that green ray energy is folly. That which is not may be seen as self-imposed darkness, in which harmony is turned into an eternal disharmony. However, that which is not cannot endure throughout the octave of third density, and as darkness eventually calls the light, so does that which is not eventually call that which is. Again, a note, this should be service to self. Don and Ra collect this later. I'm trying to read it properly for you guys, so I'm going to make the changes as we move. Questioner. I believe that there were silent errors in the communication we just completed because of transmission difficulties. Are you aware of these errors? Ra. I am Ra. We are unsure of errors, although this instrument is experiencing flares of pain, as you would call this distortion. We welcome and encourage your perceptions in correcting any errors in transmission. Questioner. I think simply that the statement was made that we were speaking of the service to others path. Would you check that, please? Ra. I am Ra. May we ask that you be apprised of our intentions to have spoken of the service to self path as the path of that which is not. Questioner. I am just interested in the problem here that we sometimes have with transmission, since the word others was used 3 times in the transmission rather than the word self. And could you give me an idea of the problem of communication that we had there that creates that type of an anomaly which, if I didn't catch, could create a rather large discrepancy in our communication? Ra. I am Ra. Firstly, we may note the clumsiness of language and our unfamiliarity with it in our native, shall we say, experience. Secondly, we may point out that once we have miscalled or misnumbered an event or thing, that reference is quite likely to be reused for some transmission time, as you call this measurement, due to our original error having gone undetected by ourselves. Questioner. Thank you. Do you have use of all of the words in the English language and, for that matter, all of the words in all languages that are spoken upon this planet at this time? Ra. I am Ra. No. Questioner. I have a question here from Jim. It states, I believe that one of my primary pre-incarnative choices was to open my green ray energy center for healing purposes. As I see my compassion developing, is it more appropriate to balance this compassion with wisdom in my healing exercises, or to allow the compassion to develop as much as possible without being balanced? Ra. I am Ra. This query borders upon that type of question to which answers are unavailable due to the free will prohibitions upon information from teach learners. To the student of the balancing process, we may suggest that the most stringent honesty be applied. As compassion is perceived, it is suggested that, in balancing, this perception be analyzed. It may take many, many essays into compassion before true universal love is the product of the attempted openings and crystallization of this all-important springboard energy center. Thus, the student may discover many other components to what may seem to be all-embracing love. Each of these components may be balanced and accepted as part of the self, and as transitional material as the entity's seat of learned teaching moves ever more fairly into the green ray. When it is perceived that universal love has been achieved, the next balancing may or may not be wisdom. If the adept is balancing manifestations, it is indeed appropriate to balance universal love and wisdom. If the balancing is of mind or spirit, there are many subtleties to which the adept may give careful consideration. Love and wisdom, like love and light, are not black and white, shall we say, but faces of the same coin, if you will. Therefore, it is not in all cases that balancing consists of a movement from compassion to wisdom. We may suggest at all times the constant remembrance of the density from which each adept desires to move. This density learns the lessons of love. In the case of wanderers, there are half-forgotten overlays of other lessons and other densities. We shall leave these considerations with the questioner and invite observations which we shall then be most happy to respond to in what may seem to be a more effectual manner. Questioner: what changes of functions or control or understanding, etc., of the mind, body, spirit were most effective in producing the evolution desired due to the veiling process? Ra: I am Ra. We are having difficulty retaining clear channel through this instrument. It has a safe margin of transferred energy, but is experiencing pain flares. May we ask that you repeat the query as we have a better channel now? Questioner: after the veiling process, certain veiled functions or activities must have been paramount in creating evolution in desired polarized directions. I was just wondering which of these had the greatest effect on polarization. Ra: I am Ra. The most effectual veiling was that of the mind. Questioner: I would like to carry that on to find out what specific functions of the mind were most effectual, and the 3 or 4 most effective changes brought about to create the polarization. Ra: I am Ra. This is an interesting query. The primary veiling was of such significance that it may be seen to be analogous to the mantling of the earth over all the jewels within the earth's crust. Whereas previously, all facets of the Creator were consciously known. After the veiling, almost no facets of the Creator were known to the mind. Almost all was buried beneath the veil. If one were to attempt to list those functions of mind most significant in that they might be of aid in polarization, one would need to begin with the faculty of visioning, envisioning, or far-seeing. Without the veil, the mind was not caught in your illusory time. With the veil, space-time is the only obvious possibility for experience. Also, upon the list of significant veiled functions of the mind would be that of dreaming. The so-called dreaming contains a great deal which, if made available to the conscious mind and used, shall aid it in the polarization to a great extent. The third function of the mind, which is significant and which has been veiled, is that of knowing of the body. The knowledge of and control over the body, having been lost to a great extent in the veiling process, is thusly lost from the experience of the seeker. Its knowledge before the veiling is of small use. Its knowledge after the veiling, and in the face of what is now a dense illusion of separation of body complex from mind complex, is quite significant. Perhaps the most important and significant function that occurred due to the veiling of the mind from itself is not in itself a function of mind, but rather is a product of the potential created by this veiling. This is the faculty of will, or pure desire. We may ask for a brief queries at this time. Although there is energy remaining for this working, we are reluctant to continue this contact, experiencing continual variations due to pain flares, as you would call this distortion. Although we are unaware of any misgiven material, we are aware that there have been several points during which our channel was less than optimal. This instrument is most faithful, but we do not wish to misuse this instrument. Please query as you will. Questioner: well, I will just ask in closing, is an individualized portion or entity of Ra inhabiting the instrument's body for the purpose of communicating? And then, if there is anything that we can do to improve the contact or make the instrument more comfortable. Ra: I am Ra. We of Ra communicate through a narrow band channel through the violet ray energy center. We are not, as you would say, physically indwelling in this instrument. Rather, the mind-body-spirit complex of this instrument rests with us. You are diligent and conscientious. The alignments are excellent. We leave you rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, my friends, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite love and the ineffable light of the one Creator. I am Ra, Adonai. Law of One, again, session 85. Such good stuff. This is, of course, on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. If anyone's jumped in late, appreciate you guys on this, though. So I've covered a few things on this one, or at least popped up in my mind, and then I'll try to see if I can figure out what questions are in there. Veil is used as a catalyst. It's also something that when you start to get yourself to the point where the catalyst isn't as necessary as it is with others. Like sometimes it's just screaming at you because you're not, oh, what do you mean? Like you're not paying attention to it. But for people that notice the subtleties when they're shown, they can start to steer themselves. And you can also sort of manifest through that same concept. And we're going to get into that a little deeper after as my last point, I guess. But the veil is something that sort of allows the other side of the veil to communicate to us. Frequently talk about letting the world show you rather than, oh, I'm supposed to experience this because it's what it says in this book. It's like, well, what's your reality showing you? That's what matters most, 100%. Like God's going to show you his thing in that way, and it's going to happen to you specifically. It's not going to happen to someone else, and then they're going to tell you a story about it. You'll be like, oh, no, really? That's awesome. Okay, I believe that too. No, it needs to happen to you. It needs to be your experience. And when we finally realize that's what this is all about, then you are on your way, and at that point, you can really start to play with your current reality, which makes it a heck of a lot more fun. So especially for all you guys that have aspirations of changing the world and stuff, that's a fun place to come at it from. That which is not, it's service to self. And that's a very interesting path because what they're trying to prove is something that's not true, which is that there's like a nothing, a void. Like you can actually do things without that lacking of the higher components, the love component essentially. Like they do it from no love. And love is really all that there is, especially once you get up into the sixth density. These two paths come back together before you can go through seventh. And love really is the combiner. All there is love. John Lennon had it figured out. So that which is not, they don't do it with love. That green ray energy is left out of their experience completely. And it's interesting how it kind of plays out for them, right? And so one of the reasons why they frequently talk about how everybody else is a creator is so many of us look to others to exemplify or to be a certain way or to act a certain way. But the reality of it is they're their own creator. They're living their own experience. Your experience is what matters to you, and expecting other people to behave a certain way so your experience can be appropriated is, well, it's similar to a lot of the problems we're having in the world today, frankly. It's because other people want others to behave a different way so they can feel better. And that's not how this works. You start to see the problems within yourself. You start to work on those problems. And then your outer world immediately begins to change. That is the key. If anyone's got chaos in their life, it's because you are chaos inside. And as you start to deal with the chaos inside, you'll notice the chaos outside starts to diminish. That's just how it works. It proves itself. This is one of those things you can't prove it to another because you've law of confusion. But the second you start doing it, you prove it to yourself, and you're like, and everybody can tell you, oh, it's just coincidence that it works. You're like, nah, I finally figured it out. And once you do, there's no turning back, and your world changes. And that's really what this whole we're all one, law of one, all this stuff is really all about us taking ownership of who we are. So your world changes when you change. That's what it basically was just saying. All languages question. So this, she asked, like, Rod, do you know all languages and all this stuff? And his answer was interesting. One, I doubt they would. Rod would know what Rod knows. But I would assume a lot of it, too. I mean, a lot of it comes down to the channel. And so there's this broadband channel, right? There's this unique, or whatever, narrowband they call it. And Carla's the one that's got that right set of connections, and the two that are helping Jim and the other person are like providing the proper energy and protection and kind of all these things. So this trinity, and it really oftentimes will be a trinity. It's a good pattern. 3 people makes a very interesting thing. 2's awesome, but 3 usually is the perfect group. It just always works out that way. More than 3, you start to have problems. 3 is just this beautiful little triangle. And again, there's something magical about it. All of that said, the language depends on the channel, and the channel, sometimes there's incidents where channels might be able to kind of come in and out of different past lives or other lives that they've experienced. And so they sometimes might have access to additional dictionaries, if you will. But for the most part, channels are limited to the language structure that they have. And in often cases, a lot of the times our beliefs are even filters on top of that same message, right? So, you could, I don't want to make examples, but yeah, the filters and all that matter. So oftentimes Ra saying, well, can you do multiple languages? I mean, no. And Carla would be a factor of that. Like, if Ra just started speaking Chinese and everyone would be like, what? Holy crap. Yeah, they'd think she was possessed or something, right? So she doesn't know Chinese. So again, it was just one of those things where it would freak people out in a lot of ways. So again, if Ra's doing material in other countries, I bet the person he's working with is speaking their native tongue. You know what I mean? So yeah. Visioning, envisioning, and far seeing. I wanted to spend a couple on this because I think this is super important, actually. It kind of gets into the manifesting thing as well. Now, to me, I'm going to describe, I guess, what my understandings are, at least of the three, at least from what I've experienced in life and what I've read and all that stupid crap like that. Visioning is, generally speaking, seeing something that you already know, something that already exists, something that's very kind of tangible. You could go and look at a picture of it, right? It exists right now. You can vision it, right? So envisioning, to me, is imagining. So, for example, it's kind of how I found the house I had. I had been manifesting this house for a very long time. It actually was built not long ago. But I was manifesting this house for many, many, many years. And I had a lot of different components that I wanted to see in the house. And I've imagined them. I've created them in my mind. I've envisioned them. And it became a house that didn't once exist. And on top of that, the individual that lived in it before me, fortunately, thank God, actually put in like smart lighting and a lot of that crap. Anyway, there's stuff in this house I would never personally have ever thought to put in this house. So it just worked out really, really well. So envisioning is really the manifesting component. You're creating something new. Far seeing, to me, is, I don't want to call it just remote viewing, but that concept, but seeing something, experiencing something, feeling somebody, like they pop into your mind and then you get a text message from them or a phone call, right? Like that's that far seeing component in my mind. That's that connection from afar. In my manifesting stuff, I'll call it thought transmissions. If you guys are curious, that manifesting channel, just look up thought transmission on my channel, and I've done a butt ton of videos on that. It's again, it's just a component that people can feel each other, and it's instant. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be halfway across the galaxy, and instantly you experience them. So it's obviously through dimensions or whatever. So that to me is kind of what far seeing is, and I'm sure there's maybe some better and other examples, but yeah, for the most part. All right, let's see if I can find any questions in here, which would be easier. Let me see if I'll scroll up this way, and then if I can find them that way, maybe. Let's see. All right. Catching up. I don't see any questions jumping yet. People saying hi. Appreciate you too, good water woman. Thank you for being here. We might not have any questions. We'll see. It is so helpful having someone help me with that, by the way. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, that's what I'm doing to myself. And cool. So it looks like there's no questions. We are going to look at doing session 86. This, again, is veil and the concept of dreaming. This is exciting, I think, and we're going to talk more about that. Also, I covered that. Perfect, yeah. Just want to make sure I had all my little notes in here. That I'm going to do my homework as best I can. But here it is, session 86. The veil. Carla, again, I don't remember how this plays out because we still got 20 sessions left total. And she passes away. I mean, I don't know if she just it's why they never did another one because she was dead, or I don't exactly know. I haven't gone and looked it up. I apologize. I probably should, but more important things that I work on a regular basis. But we will see how this plays out together. That's a big part of why I wanted to teach, learn, teach. This is, all of that, again said. Thank you guys for being a part of this. 86, this is, of course, the Law of One material. It is on the Fringe, and, of course, I am Dan RadioStyle. Law of One, session 86, recorded May 4th, 1982. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. The instrument's distortions towards physical energy complex deficit has slightly increased since the last asking. The vital energy levels have had significant calls upon them and are somewhat less than the last asking also. Questioner, what was the nature of these significant calls on the vital energy? Ra, I am Ra. There are those entities which entertain the thought distortion towards this entity that it shall remove for the other selves all distortions for the other self. This entity has recently been in close contact with a larger than normal number of entities with these thought complex distortions. This entity is of the distortion to provide whatever service is possible and is not consciously aware of the inroads made upon the vital energies. Questioner, am I correct in assuming that you're speaking of incarnate third density entities that were creating the condition of use of the vital energy? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, what's the present situation with our fifth density service to self-polarized companion? Ra, I am Ra. The period which you may call crisis remains. Questioner, can you tell me anything of the nature of this crisis? Ra, I am Ra. The polarity of your companion is approaching the critical point, at which the entity shall choose either to retreat for the nonce and leave any greetings to fourth density minions or lose polarity. The only other potential is that in some way this group might lose polarity, in which case your companion could continue its form of greeting. Questioner, in the last session, you had mentioned the properties precipitating from the veiling of the mind, the first being visioning, envisioning, or far-seeing. Would you explain the meaning of that? Ra, I am Ra. Your language is not overstrewn with non-emotional terms for the functional qualities of what is now termed the unconscious mind. The nature of mind is something which we have requested that you ponder. However, it is, shall we say, clear enough to the casual observer that we may share some thoughts with you without infringing upon your free, learned teaching experiences. The nature of the unconscious is of the nature of concept rather than word. Consequently, before the veiling, the use of the deeper mind was that of the use of unspoken concept. You may consider the emotive and connotative aspects of a melody. One could call out, in some stylized fashion, the terms for the notes of the melody. One could say a quarter note A, a quarter note A, a quarter note A, a whole note F. This bears little resemblance to the beginning of the melody of one of your composer's most influential melodies, that known to you as the symbol of victory. This is the nature of the deeper mind. There are only stylized methods with which to discuss its functions. Thusly, our descriptions of this portion of the mind, as well as the same portion of body and spirit, were given the terms as far-seeing, indicating that the nature of penetration of the veiled portion of the mind may be likened unto the journey too rich and exotic to contemplate adequate describing thereof. Questioner, you stated that dreaming, if made available to the conscious mind, will aid greatly in polarization. Would you define dreaming or tell us what it is and how it aids in polarization? Ra, I am Ra. Dreaming is an activity of communication through the veil of the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. The nature of this activity is wholly dependent upon the situation regarding the energy center blockages, activations, and crystallizations of a given mind-body-spirit complex. In one who is blocked at 2 or 3 of the lower energy centers, dreaming will be of value in the polarization process, in that there will be a repetition of those portions of recent catalyst as well as deeper held blockages, thereby giving the waking mind clues as to the nature of these blockages and hints as to the possible changes in perception which may lead to the unblocking. This type of dreaming or communication through the veiled portions of the mind occurs also with those mind-body-spirit complexes which are functioning with far less blockage and enjoying the green ray activation or higher activation at those times at which the mind-body-spirit complex experiences catalyst, momentarily reblocking or baffling or otherwise distorting the flow of energy influx. Therefore, in all cases, it is useful to a mind-body-spirit complex to ponder the content and emotive resonance of dreams. For those whose green ray energy centers have been activated, as well as for those whose green ray energy centers are offered an unusual unblockage due to the extreme catalyst, such as what is termed the physical death of the self, or one which is beloved occurring in what you may call your near future. Dreaming takes on another activity. This is what may loosely be termed precognition, or a knowing, which is prior to that which shall occur in physical manifestation in your yellow ray third density space-time. This property of the mind depends upon its placement to a great extent in time-space, so that the terms of present and future and past have no meaning. This will, if made proper use of by the mind, body, spirit, enable this entity to enter more fully into an all-compassionate love of each and every circumstance, including those circumstances against which an entity may have a strong distortion towards what you may call unhappiness. As the mind, body, spirit, and I guess this should be spirit complex, they created this or fixed this later, so as a mind, body, spirit complex consciously chooses the path of the adept and, with each energy center balanced to a minimal degree, begins to open the indigo ray energy center. The so-called dreaming becomes the most efficient tool for polarization, for if it is known by the adept that work may be done in consciousness while the so-called conscious mind rests, this adept may call upon those which guide it, those presences which surround it, and, most of all, the magical personality which is the higher self in space-time analog as it moves into the sleeping mode of consciousness. With these affirmations attended to, the activity of the dreaming reaches that potential of learned teaching which is most helpful to increasing the distortions of the adept towards its chosen polarity. There are other possibilities of the dreaming not so closely aligned with the increase in polarity which we do not cover at this particular space-time. Questioner: how is the dream designed or programmed? Is this done by the higher self, or who is responsible for this? Ra: I am Ra. In all cases, the mind-body-spirit complex makes what use it can of the faculty of the dreaming. It itself is responsible for this activity. Questioner: then you are saying that the subconscious is responsible for what I would call design or script writing for the dream. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: is the memory that the individual has upon waking from the dream usually reasonably accurate? Is the dream easily remembered? Ra: I am Ra. You must realize that we are overgeneralizing in order to answer your queries, as there are several sorts of dreams. However, in general, it may be noted that it is only for a trained and disciplined observer to have a reasonably good recall of the dreaming. This faculty may be learned by virtue of a discipline of the recording immediately upon awakening of each and every detail which can be recalled. This training sharpens one's ability to recall the dream. The most common perception of a mind-body-spirit complex of its dream is muddied, muddled, and quickly lost. Questioner: in that remembering dreams, you are saying that the individual can find specific clues to current energy center blockages and may thereby reduce or eliminate those blockages? Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is so. Questioner: is there any other function of dreaming that is of value in the evolutionary process? Ra: I am Ra. Although there are many which are of some value, we would choose two to note, since these two, though not of value in polarization, may be of value in a more generalized sense. The activity of dreaming is an activity in which there is made a finely wrought and excellently fashioned bridge from conscious to unconscious. In this state, the various distortions which have occurred in the energy web of the body complex, due to the misprecision with which the energy influxes have been received, are healed. With the proper amount of dreaming comes the healing of these distortions. Continued lack of this possibility can cause seriously distorted mind-body-spirit complexes. The other function of the dreaming which is of aid is that type of dream which is visionary and which prophets and mystics have experienced from days of old. Their visions come through the roots of the mind and speak to the hungry world. Thus the dream is of service without being of a personally polarizing nature. However, in that mystic or prophet who desires to serve, such services will increase the entity's polarity. Questioner: there is a portion of sleep that has been called REM. Is this the state of dreaming? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. It was noticed that this occurs in small units during the night with gaps in between. Is there any particular reason for this? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. Questioner. If it is of any value to know that, would you tell me why the dreaming process works like that? Ra. I am Ra. The portions of the dreaming process which are helpful for polarization and also for the vision of the mystic take place in time-space and, consequently, use the bridge from metaphysical to physical for what seems to be a brief period of your space-time. The time-space equivalent is far greater. The bridge remains, however, and introduces each distortion of mind, body, and spirit as it has received the distortions of the energy influxes, so that healing may take place. This healing process does not occur with the incidence of rapid eye movement, but rather occurs largely in the space-time portion of the mind-body-spirit complex, using the bridge to time-space for the process of healing to be enabled. Questioner. You mentioned loss of the knowledge and control over the body as being a factor that was helpful in the evolutionary process due to veiling. Could you enumerate the important losses of knowledge and control over the body? Ra. I am Ra. This query contains some portions which would be more helpfully answered were some intervening material requested. Questioner. I'm at a loss to know what to request. Can you give me an idea of what area of intervening material I should work on? Ra. I am Ra. No. However, we shall be happy to answer the original query if it is still desired, if you first perceive that there is information lacking. Questioner. Perhaps I can question it slightly differently here. I might ask, why loss of knowledge and control over the body was helpful? So a little something was cut out at the beginning of this. That's why there's a single star. And then the second star, should the mind-body-spirit, Ra and Don corrected the error in session 87. So that goes back to the spirit complex, apparently. So he started talking about something differently and then got back on topic, if you will. So Ra's answer. Ra. I am Ra. The knowledge of the potentials of the physical vehicle before the veiling offered the mind-body-spirit complex a free range of choices with regard to activities and manifestations of body, but offered little in the way of the development of polarity. When the knowledge of these potentials and functions of the physical vehicle is shrouded from the conscious mind complex, the mind-body-spirit complex is often nearly without knowledge of how to best manifest its beingness. However, this state of lack of knowledge offers an opportunity for a desire to grow within the mind complex. This desire is that which seeks to know the possibilities of the body complex. The ramifications of each possibility and the eventual biases thusly built have within them a force which can only be generated by such desire or will to know. Questioner. Perhaps you could give examples of use of the body prior to veiling and after veiling in the same aspect so that we could understand the changes in knowledge and control over the body more clearly. Could you do this, please? Ra. I am Ra. We could. Questioner. Will you do this? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. Let us deal with the sexual energy transfer. Before the veiling, such a transfer was always possible due to there being no shadow upon the grasp of the nature of the body complex and its relationship to other mind-body-spirit complexes. And its relationship to other mind-body-spirit complexes in this particular manifestation. Before the veiling process, there was a near total lack of the use of this sexual energy transfer beyond green ray. This also was due to the same unshadowed knowledge each had of each. There was, in third density then, little purpose to be seen in the more intensive relationships of mind-body-spirit complexes, which you may call those of the mating process, since each other self was seen to be the creator, and no other self seemed to be more the creator than another. After the veiling process, it became infinitely more difficult to achieve green ray energy transfers due to the great areas of mystery and unknowing concerning the body complex and its manifestations. However, also due to the great shadowing of the manifestations of the body from the conscious mind complex, when such energy transfer was experienced, it was likelier to provide catalyst which caused a bonding of self with other self in a properly polarized configuration. From this point, it was far more likely that higher energy transfers would be sought by this mated pair of mind-body-spirit complexes, thus allowing the Creator to know itself with great beauty, solemnity, and wonder. Intelligent infinity having been reached by this sacramental use of this function of the body, each mind-body-spirit complex of the mated pair gained greatly in polarization and an ability to serve. They had some corrections in here. They don't look huge. Nonetheless, I think we're okay. They were obviously having pain, and this was causing problems with this transmission. Questioner, did any of these other aspects of loss of knowledge or control over the body approach to any degree in efficiency what you've just described? Ra, I am Ra. Each function of the bodily complex has some potential after the veiling to provide helpful catalyst. We did choose the example of sexual energy transfer due to its central place in the functionary capabilities of the body complex, made more useful by means of the veiling process. This instrument grows somewhat low in energy. We would prefer to retain the maximal portion of reserved energy for which this instrument has given permission. We would therefore ask for one more full query at this working. Questioner, I will assume that the veiling of the sexual aspect was of great efficiency because it is an aspect that has to do totally with a relationship with another self. It would seem to me that the bodily veilings having to do with other self-interactions would be most efficient, and those only related to the self be lower in efficiency in producing either positive or negative polarization. Am I correct in this assumption? Ra, I am Ra. You are correct to a great extent. Perhaps the most notable exception is the attitude of one already strongly polarized negatively towards the appearance of the body complex. There are those entities upon the negative path which take great care in the preservation of the distortion your peoples perceive as fairness, ugliness. This fairness of form is, of course, then used in order to manipulate other selves. May we ask if there are any brief queries? Questioner, is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. We are pleased that this instrument was more conscientious in preparing itself for contact by means of the careful mental vibrations which you call prayer. This enabled the channel to be free from the distortions which the contact fell prey to during the last working. We would suggest to the support group some continued care in the regulating of the physical activities of the instrument. However, at this nexus, it is well to encourage those activities which feed the vital energies as this instrument lives in this space-time present almost completely due to the careful adherence to the preservation of those mental and spiritual energies which make up the vital energy complex of this entity. Each is conscientious. The alignments are good. We would caution the support group as to the physical alignment of the appurtenances known as the sensor. There has been some slight difficulty due to the variation in the pattern of the effluvium of this incense. I am Ra. I leave you rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the love and in the light of the one Creator. Adonai. On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Again, hope everyone out there is doing great. Of course, Law of One, finishing up the session 86. Again, a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we do have a few questions. I'll get to those after I finish kind of walking through my thought process on this, or at least the stuff that popped into my little noodle. But dreaming equals the conscious, unconscious mind. It is a very important thing to understand that. So, especially when your dreams are super weird, that's really, really when you're pulling stuff from the other side and trying to bring it down, and you use symbols and all sorts of crazy stuff. But it is a connection from the veil, subconscious, unconscious, however you want to see it. It's the other side. It's where the time-space exists. And here, in a conscious part of our experience, is space-time. Now, that one thing they point out with the rapid eye movement, which I think is worthy of note, they talked about how you will dream for a short period of time and then stop, and then you might dream again a little bit later. Why is there a gap, they asked. And the gap is because so much happens in your dream. You just had what felt like a day, right? You experienced a day in your dream. And that happens in what feels like forever, but happens in a short second here. And so that's all it takes to give you the message to download. I mean, people talk about downloads all the time. That's kind of what dreams are, to a large extent. I mean, simplifying, I think. Blockages are one of the main reasons for a lot of dreams. And it might even be partially part of my question or answer to one of the people that's had a question. I've kind of tried to find where you guys are in there. But blockages are one of the things that are being shown to us in a lot of cases. If that's happening, if that's the point of your dreams, depending on how they come together, it'd be really hard to break them all down, the amount of time needed to try to describe which, examples of each kind of dream. But blockages will be shown in your dreams, and understanding that and trying to work on the blockage component is going to assist you in removing the purpose of the dream. It's a catalyst. It's trying to send you a message that you need to try to understand in your conscious mind, and it's coming from your higher self, really, your higher self. Perfect words. Precog dreams happen to a lot of people. These are the ones that are usually future telling, and oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they will be very realistic, very realistic. They'll seem like you're there because you are. You're actually experiencing that point in time. Work while sleep, you can actually be involved in things. There's a lot of crazy stuff out there that people talk about, but you can have a job basically on the other side when you're sleeping. It's like, all right, I don't need the body. I'm going to go do other stuff, because some of us are oddly efficient that way. And we're not necessarily here for the catalyst of this experience, but we're actually operating from more of a soul level in general, and we have a physical body. So a lot of times people say we're spirits having a human experience. That's 100% what happens when you're conscious. 100% is exactly what it is. The outside of that is dreams. That's where you are. You're in heaven, or whatever heaven is. Where we go, where we come from, that's where we are when we're dreaming. That's why you'll see people on the other side frequently. It freaks with our minds sometimes, so it depends. If you're totally cool with it, you'll understand why you're seeing people that aren't alive anymore. One way to be able to remember dreams, and it's important because you will almost immediately forget them. That's just how they are. They're supposed to be that way, essentially. One of the ways you can do is have a dream journal. This is the best recommendation. Or if you're someone that's more vocal and you have some sort of means of being able to record yourself, immediately when you wake up, if you have a dream that you want to remember, immediately, don't wait a second. The pad of paper already needs to be next to your bed. If you go wandering off to grab it, you will already have forgotten your dream. So if you are serious about wanting to remember your dreams, you need to have an immediate source of recording somehow, be it writing, be it talking, I don't know, however it works. It has to happen that way. Otherwise, you won't ever remember it. So that's the thing. It fades very quickly. So there you go. That's one of the best ways to try to do it. They call it a dream journal frequently, but there's a lot of ways you can try to record your dreams. And that's the only way you'll remember them. And by the way, when you do that, it causes them to stick with you, which is very cool. Normally they wouldn't have. And they're there. They're in your subconscious, but they clicked your conscious for a second. You're like, damn. So dreams are in time-space, and space-time, I mentioned that, the time difference. So very cool stuff. All right, let's take a couple questions, and I will share a link for any quick questions after the show. I'll give the StreamYard link for anybody that's got questions. And if nobody's got questions, we'll cut that short, just so you guys know it's not a hangout session. It's just a question session. First question I've got is this one here. Maggie. I dream constantly and sometimes wake up and have much difficulty falling back asleep. Question, is dreaming a lot a good thing? Now, that's really depends, right? If it's causing you problems, causing you issues with your health because you're not sleeping properly, if it's causing those types of problems, then I would say, dreaming's probably not a good thing. But it's up to you. Do you feel you're dreaming too much? If you do, then okay, it's not a good thing. So you got that question. But my thought process, and I saw, I guess, a couple of the posts that you're doing, and I'm not going to share all those, but ultimately, I think you might have some blockages too that are being shown to you. So oftentimes trying to understand, what am I trying to tell myself? What is it in my life, in my reality? Because it's 100% your reality, Maggie, that you're talking to. It's you. It's you 100%. There's no other person that needs to understand that dream except you. And there's nobody else that needs to do anything different except you. So it's 100% you. That is the part that I think, if you start paying attention to it and saying, what am I trying to tell myself? What is this message here to me? Why am I having this message? You will actually start to find that some of these reasons to dream will go away, and or nightmares even frequently, will have those not happen anymore. Now, again, there could be a lot of weird programming if you're falling asleep with your TV on. There's a lot of things that can absolutely affect your ability to sleep well too. So again, is it just the dreaming? I don't know. Maybe not. It could be a lot more complex. So it's something you got to look at, Maggie. You got to, again, it's an interesting question. I think it's good for everybody. But yeah, the answer will be individual for each of us. And that is super cool from that standpoint, because that's really what we're all about. Yeah, thank you, S. Jones, for the reminder to people. Maggie asked another question. Oh, you already got that. I got that one anyway. Let's see, another question from Patriot Daryl. Question, are there techniques that will enable us to remember dreams better? Yeah, I guess I covered that. So, cool. I hope that answered your question, Mr. Patriot Daryl. And we'll see if we got any others down here. All of that said, a lot of great people in the chat. I appreciate you guys all being here. I guess if I go faster, yeah, it should say question, right? All right, so no more questions, it looks like. So good, we made it through another week. Law of One, a lot to think about. You might have to listen to it again. That's always okay. Cool, Patriots, Daryl. Appreciate you giving some feedback on that. Well, I love you guys. Again, we're going to do this again next week, and we're getting down, I don't know, like, 20 more sessions? So 10 more weeks, probably-ish. I kind of feel like we're getting some solid training before stuff starts to get a little bumpy in the world. So having a few more of you guys ultra conscious will be a big giant benefit. Oh, Thinko 2000, real quick question, and then and real quick, actually, youngins, yes, I've experienced it a couple times. I do have experienced it. I've had it. The reasons I've had it experienced one time is because. I guess I'll share this real quick. One of the times I experienced it was when I was younger, and I never really knew, but I knew someone was in the room. The second time I experienced it, I was actually facing some creatures that were working on me, and so I just wasn't able to move. So that's definitely happened to me. I don't know if people got other examples. You guys can throw it in the comments if you do. That'll be cool. But yeah, and I'm not going to share all the comments per se, but it's a great question. And then here we got Think. Question, are there any benefits or uses for lucid dreaming? Well, that would be up to you to decide. Why would you ask someone else if something will benefit you? You know what I mean? Like, does it sound interesting to you? Do you want to try to learn how to do that? Would that, because a lot of times people get all into trying to do that, but for me, I've always found it's just communication to myself, so why would I want to try to control that communication or work on it? But you can. I mean, that can be a thing you can learn how to do. I mean, there's people that learn how to do it, and it's cool, and they teach people how to do it, so, it might be something you're into. I don't know. That's your total up to you. But a lot of people have done it. It's not something I've ever necessarily pursued, just not an interest of mine. But, there you go. Hopefully that helps some. Let's see. Got to run. Good night, Jones, S. Jones. And, now we've got it. Oh, Youngblood's had a demon on my chest. Yeah, I don't. That's not cool. Yeah, so there's you got a slightly different experience. That's for sure. I wonder what you're trying to tell yourself on that experience, or what was happening from that standpoint. Maybe it was the devil trying to hold you down. It's hard to say. That's the reality we all have is going to be our unique reality. And sometimes we have this cool places where we share with others the same reality, and that's always fantastic. But it's like so refreshing to find somebody that understands, right, what you've gone through. All that said, we're going to close this out, and I'll hang out for a few after. If you guys want to hop in, I'll share the link in the show comments, or the live comments, I should say. And all that said, I love you guys. We're certainly going to continue doing the Law of One, certainly session 87, 88 next week. It's, of course, on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.
Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a Big Bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The Big Bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.